Back in May, Sue Gray planted a mixture of gourds, and we're to the point that we've got some that are ready to harvest and some that are a little bit further along. So we want to talk to you today about the varieties that we have here and how to harvest them. We've actually got two kinds of gourds here. We've got one that is referred to as ornamental gourds, which you see here. They come in many different colors and different sizes. Some of them you'll see are a yellow-green mix, some are solid yellow, some are even solid green. The other kind that we have is known as the bird's nest gourd or bottle gourd. And it's a little bit longer. We've got some even up here that we'll talk about in a little bit that are very large in circumference as well. The problem with this gourd mix is that the ornamentals are actually overripe and ready to be harvested, and the problem that we've got is some of them are dropping off the vines. And like any of the other winter squash, pumpkins, that kind of thing, you want to do the fingernail test, and these are very firm. And what happens is they're dropping off and we're not getting any stem on them, so we're actually getting some rotting. As you can see down here, we've got several that have already fallen off the ground. They've gotten in the mud, different bruises and bangs, and we're getting some that are already starting to rot on us, as you can see here. And most of the time it's from the stem in, and that's why we want to emphasize to try to harvest them with a little bit of the stem left on. To try to salvage these, what we'll do is we'll not rub them or scrub them very hard because that'll damage the flesh again, but just dip them in a solution of soapy water or a mixture of bleach or even a little bit of vinegar. And I've just got a little bit of soapy water here and just kind of dip them in there. And this is to kill any organisms that might decay or cause the gourds to rot on us. And then just gently put them on a towel and let them dry a little bit. When you store them, make sure there's plenty of air circulation around them and make sure that it's well ventilated and not too hot. The gourds, as you can see, are very pretty, and we'll make some ornamental baskets later on in the season, but our other ones that we have here are not ripe. The bottle gourds, usually you want to make sure they go at least as close to the freeze as you can because they're not quite ripe and we want them to fully mature. And you can see even along the stem that the stem and the tendrils are still pretty green. One of our bigger gourds up here is actually still hanging on the fence, but we've got a sunburn here because we've talked about powdery mildew in the past, and we've got a little bit on our gourds and the foliage, and so the sun is burning this, and we will obviously get a rot there if we don't try to protect it. We're going to try a couple of things. The best thing would be a shade cloth, anything that will actually shade the gourd. But we're also going to try some of the remay that we use so often in the garden to see if it will shade the gourd as well as reflect the sunlight. So we'll just take that and wrap it around, tie it up, make sure there's some ventilation in there, and hopefully we can keep these from sunburning and rotting and be able to salvage them a little bit closer to the frost. Now, another question that many homeowners ask this time of year is, will the gourds cross with the squash and the other families of the cucurbit family? And actually, the Cucurbitaceae, or the cucurbit family and species, can cross between those. So the gourds might cross with squash, etc. But the thing that would determine that would be if you kept any of your squash and then kept the seed and harvested or planted those next spring, then you might come up with some funny looking plants. But there's really no need for concern. Most of us don't keep the seed. It would be difficult for them to cross, and if you're having anything that you've bought this year that's showing up deformed and looks like it's crossed, it's probably a virus or something. So we're going to cover these up and try to salvage those until the freeze, and we'll be sure and keep you informed on how that progress goes.
We hope you enjoyed this video. It's part of our OK Gardening Classics YouTube channel. You can also find more recent videos on our Oklahoma Gardening YouTube channel. And join us on social media for great gardening tips, photos, and discussion.